bottle shattered against the marble floor of the Hawthorne penthouse, shards exploding like fireworks in the dim glow of the city lights filtering through floor-to-ceiling windows. "You're firing me? After everything?" My voice echoed off the walls, raw and ragged, as if the words themselves were bleeding out. Elias Hawthorne stood there, his omega scent, jasmine laced with storm clouds, thick in the air, his blue eyes wide with a mix of fury and something softer, something that twisted the knife deeper. Desperation. I, Alex Rivera, had sworn off this glittering hellhole they called New York 5 years ago, after my sister's overdose left me burying her in a potter's field upstate while the city chewed up dreamers like confetti. I'd fled to the quiet sprawl of upstate farms, hauling hay bales and fixing engines for folks who knew grief without the glamour. But fate, that cruel bastard, had dragged me back 2 weeks ago when a headhunter from some elite security firm dangled a paycheck too fat to ignore. Personal protection for Elias Hawthorne III, the 25-year-old heir to a media empire built on tabloid scandals and whispered omega suppressants. "He's got enemies," they'd said. "Stalkers. Family rivals. You start Monday." Monday had been a disaster. Elias was everything I hated about the elite. Spoiled, sharp-tongued, with cheekbones that could cut glass and a laugh that hid barbs. The first day, he'd sized me up in the lobby of his Upper East Side fortress, like one of those Gilded Age mansions masquerading as an apartment building, and sneered, "You? Guarding me? You look like you crawled out of a dive bar in Queens." I'd bitten back the retort, clocked in at dawn, shadowed him through board meetings where suits droned about ad revenue and digital pivots, and ended the night breaking up a paparazzi scrum outside some Soho gallery opening. By day 3, his barbs had softened into reluctant glances, and I'd caught myself lingering on the way his fingers drummed against his coffee mug, elegant and restless, like a caged bird testing the bars. Now, here we were, 2 weeks in, and the penthouse felt like a pressure cooker about to blow. The argument had started over nothing, a late-night drive through the Holland Tunnel where he'd confessed, in a whisper over the hum of traffic, that his father expected him to mate with some beta venture capitalist from Silicon Valley next month. "It's all arranged," he'd said, voice cracking like thin ice. "Like I'm just another asset to consolidate." I'd gripped the wheel tighter, my alpha instincts flaring unbidden. Protect, claim, shield, and muttered something stupid about running, about ditching the city for good. That's when the bottle flew. Elias stepped over the glass, barefoot and unyielding, his silk shirt untucked and clinging to his frame from the summer humidity that never quit in this concrete jungle. "You don't get it, do you, Rivera? This isn't some rom-com where the brooding bodyguard sweeps the damsel off to a cabin in the woods. This is my life. My cage." His chest heaved, and for a split second, the air between us hummed with that forbidden pull. The Omega Alpha dance we'd both been dodging since day one. New York had a way of amplifying it, all those scents mingling in subways and cafes. But Elias? He was a storm in human form, pulling me under despite every warning siren in my head. I backed up a step, boots crunching on the debris. "Then let me walk. Find some pretty boy from your world to play night." But even as I said it, my eyes betrayed me, tracing the flush creeping up his neck, the way his lips parted like he was on the verge of something irreversible. He laughed, bitter and broken, closing the distance until we were inches apart, his heat radiating like a fever. "You think I want that? Some drone who sees me as a trophy? No, Alex. I want you, the guy who glares at the skyline like it personally offended him, who smells like pine forests and bad decisions. The one who makes me feel seen." His hand shot out, fingers curling into my shirt collar, yanking me forward. Our breaths mingled, and time stuttered. The city below us a distant roar, the world narrowing to this reckless precipice. Could have pulled away. Should have. But New York had always been a thief, stealing resolve like it stole sleep. Instead, I cupped his jaw, thumb brushing the stubble he'd forgotten to shave, and whispered, "Then what the hell are we doing here, Elias?" The kiss that followed was inevitable, a collision of pent-up fury and fragile hope. His lips were soft, tasting of bourbon and regret, and for a heartbeat, the penthouse faded. The glittering Hudson River view, the Warhol prints on the walls, the weight of Hawthorne legacies pressing down. It was just us, two lost souls bartering with fire in a city built on ashes. But nothing in New York stays simple. As we broke apart, gasping, his phone buzzed on the counter like a grenade pin pulled. The screen lit up. Dad. Elias's face drained of color, and I knew, with a gut punch of certainty, that this us was the spark that would ignite the powder keg. The next morning dawned sticky and unforgiving, the kind of July heat that turned the sidewalks into skillets and tempers into tinder. I woke on the leather couch in the guest suite, Elias's idea of boundaries. Though we'd crossed every line by midnight, my body aching from the tension of holding back. He'd retreated to his room after the call, murmuring excuses about damage control, leaving me to stare at the ceiling fan whirring like a judgmental eye. By 7, I was suited up in my black tactical gear, coffee black as my mood, when he emerged. Hair tousled, eyes shadowed, but that defiant spark undimmed. "Truce?" he asked, sliding a mug across the island counter. No mention of the kiss, like it was a dream we'd both conjured and discarded. "Truce?" I echoed, though my pulse betrayed me every time our fingers brushed. We fell into routine, me driving the black Escalade through gridlock to Hawthorne Media's glass tower in Midtown, him barking orders into his earpiece about quarterly projections. But the air between us crackled now, charged with unspoken what-ifs. During lunch at a hole-in-the-wall falafel joint in Hell's Kitchen, his guilty pleasure, away from the Michelin-starred traps, I caught him watching me over his gyro, a small smile playing at his lips. "Tell me about upstate," he said suddenly, wiping tahini from his chin. "Why'd you really leave the city?" I hesitated, fork midway to my mouth. Stories like mine didn't belong in places like this, where pain came wrapped in velvet. But his gaze held no pity, just that quiet hunger for truth. So I told him. The sister, the needles, the funeral where rain mixed with my tears on a gray Bronx hillside. New York took her. I finished, voice low. Promised the world. Delivered a coffin. Elias reached across the scarred Formica table, his hand covering mine, warm, steady. "It takes everyone eventually, but maybe it gives back too." His thumb traced my knuckles, a promise in the touch, and for the first time since arriving, the city's roar felt less like a threat and more like a heartbeat syncing with mine. That afternoon, the threats escalated. A black sedan tailed us from the office to a rooftop fundraiser in Chelsea, where champagne flutes clinked under string lights and influencers posed for the gram. Elias mingled like a pro, charming the donors, dodging questions about his imminent engagement. But I spotted the shadow in the crowd. A wiry guy in a cheap suit, eyes too sharp, phone angled our way. 9 o'clock, I murmured into his earpiece as I scanned the perimeter. "Don't react." He nodded imperceptibly, laughing at some tech bro's joke, but his free hand found mine behind a potted ficus, squeezing hard. "Who is he?" he whispered later, as we slipped into the service elevator, the ding of floors marking our descent like a countdown. "Stalker, or hired muscle. Stay close." The elevator opened to the underground garage, humid and echoing, and that's when the first shot cracked, silenced, but unmistakable, ricocheting off concrete. I shoved Elias behind a pillar, drawing my Glock in one fluid motion, years of academy training kicking in like muscle memory. "Down! Now!" Footsteps pounded, 2, maybe 3 assailants, and the garage erupted into chaos. Tires screeching, my barked commands, Elias's ragged breaths beside me. I fired twice, clipping one in the shoulder, and they scattered like roaches into the night. Sirens wailed in the distance as I hauled him to the SUV, peeling out onto the West Side Highway with the pedal to the floor. "You're bleeding," he gasped, pressing a handkerchief to my grazed bicep. "Scratch." But adrenaline surged, sharpening everything. The salt of his fierce sweat, the way he leaned into me at the red light, head on my shoulder like I was the only anchor in his storm-tossed world. Back at the penthouse, after cops and statements and a locked-down perimeter, we collapsed onto the balcony chaise, the city sprawl a glittering apology below. "Thank you," he murmured, lacing his fingers through mine. Foreseeing me through the bullshit. I turned, our faces close enough to share breath. You're worth the bullshit, Elias. And then we kissed again. Slower this time. The kind that unraveled you thread by thread. No rush, no desperation. Just two men stealing a sliver of peace from a city that devoured the weak. But peace in New York? That's the biggest lie of all. By week's end, the tabloids hit. Grainy photos of our rooftop handhold. Headlines screaming, Hawthorne Heir's secret fling. Bodyguard or boyfriend? Elias's father called it dawn. Voice like gravel over the line. Fix this, or you're cut off. And in the shadows, I glimpsed the real threat. Not bullets, but the betrayal brewing in the Hawthorne bloodline itself. The fallout hit like a nor'easter, whipping through the penthouse with gale force resentment. Elias paced the living room, phone glued to his ear, his voice a tight wire of negotiation. Dad, it's not what it looks like. Alex is just doing his job. But the photos told their own story. My arm around his waist in the garage shadows, his head on my shoulder in the SUV, captured by some drone with a grudge. By noon, the Hawthorne PR machine was in overdrive, spinning yarns about dedicated security, while Elias fielded calls from board members sniffing for weakness. I stayed in the kitchen, brewing coffee strong enough to strip paint, my mind replaying the shots in the garage like a bad loop. Who were they? Paparazzi muscle gone rogue, or something uglier from the family vaults? Elias's world was a viper pit. His grandfather had built the empire on exposés that toppled politicians, his father on alliances sealed in boardrooms and backroom deals. Omegas like Elias? They were the pretty packaging, expected to smile and breed heirs, not stir scandals. He hung up, slumping onto a barstool, his usual poise fractured. He's sending in the cavalry. Some fixer from the firm, Beta, of course, to assess the situation. The air quotes dripped sarcasm, but underneath lurked fear, sharp as broken glass. I slid him a mug, our fingers brushing. A habit now, electric and comforting. And what about us? His laugh was hollow, echoing off the stainless steel. Us? In this town, us is a punchline. But God, Alex, last night on the balcony, it felt real. He met my eyes, that blue so deep it drowned you, and reached for my hand. Tell me it was real. Real as the bullet that almost took my arm off. I pulled him close, foreheads touching, inhaling his scent that calmed the alpha roar in my chest. In a city of 8 million strangers, he'd become my North Star, flawed, fierce, flickering but unyielding. We spent the afternoon barricaded in, ordering Thai from that spot on 2nd Avenue with the peanut sauce that could resurrect the dead. Curled on the couch under a cashmere throw, his, not mine, but who was counting? We watched old noirs on TCM, Bogart drawling about dames and double crosses. Elias traced patterns on my palm, confessing fragments of his life. Summers in the Hamptons dodging his mother's pill haze. Boarding school crushes crushed by appropriate interventions. The suppressants he'd popped since 16 to mute the omega pull that made him a target. You're not a target, I growled, tilting his chin up. You're a force, and I'll be damned if I let them dim that. His kiss was gratitude wrapped in hunger, soft explorations that left us breathless and tangled. Clothes askew but boundaries intact. No, this wasn't about bodies. It was souls colliding, mending cracks we'd both carried too long. As the credits rolled, he whispered, "Take me away from here, just for a night. No guards, no headlines. Brooklyn," I suggested, half joking. The borough was my old haunt, gritty edges softened by hipster influx, but it held ghosts I rarely visited. Better, Coney Island. Like kids. We slipped out at dusk, me and civvies, a faded Mets tee and jeans. The Escalade swapped for a nondescript lift to dodge tails. The subway rattled us under the East River, Elias's head on my shoulder amid the evening crush. His laughter bubbling when a busker strummed Empire State of Mind off-key. Coney Island boardwalk glowed like a fever dream. Nathan's hot dogs steaming. The cyclone screams piercing the salt air. Ferris wheel lights painting the Atlantic in neon strokes. We rode the Wonder Wheel first, gondola swaying high above the surf, the city a distant smudge on the horizon. "I used to dream of this," he said, wind whipping his hair. "Escaping to some nowhere town, starting over. No name, no expectations." I wrapped an arm around him, the metal creaking beneath us. "You could. We could. I've got a truck, a duffel, and 0 attachments." He turned, eyes shimmering. "And leave the fight?" "My father's pulling strings. Threats to pull funding from queer youth shelters if I don't toe the line. It's bigger than me now." The drop hit like reality's slap. Hawthorne Media wasn't just ink and pixels. It bankrolled half the progressive causes in the city, from pride floats to crisis hotlines. Elias wasn't just an heir. He was the linchpin, the Omega who'd clawed his way to influence despite the system's boot on his neck. We wandered after, cotton candy melting on our tongues, his hand in mine drawing sidelong glances from families and freaks alike. A drag queen hawking glow sticks catcalled, "Get a room, lovebirds," and Elias flushed, grinning like he'd won the lottery. For hours we were anonymous, 2 guys stealing joy from the Midway games, me winning him a lopsided stuffed shark at the ring toss. But New York never lets you forget. As fireworks burst over the beach, reds and golds exploding like shattered hearts, my burner buzzed. Unknown number, text stark. "Hawthorne's boy toy. Back off or the sister's grave gets a visitor." Ice flooded my veins. My sister. How? I'd buried that deep, shared it only with him. "Elias," I rasped, showing him the screen. His face crumpled, joy evaporating like sea foam. "It's Victor," he breathed. Victor Lang, his cousin, beta scion of the rival Lang media clan, who'd been sniffing at Hawthorne assets since their grandfather's feud in the 80s. "He must have dug into your background." "God, Alex, I'm sorry." The gondola had been freedom. This was chains. We raced back via cab, the skyline mocking us with its unblinking eyes. At the penthouse, I triple-checked locks, loaded the clip, while Elias paced, dialing his father again. "Victor's escalating. We need to." "No." The old man's voice boomed through speakerphone, tinny and tyrannical. "You need to end this farce. Marry the beta, secure the merger. Or watch your pet projects burn." Elias's hand trembled on the phone. "And Alex? He's in the crosshairs because of me." Pause heavy as lead. "Collateral. Fix it, son." The line died, leaving silence thicker than fog. Elias sank to the floor, back against the island, tears carving tracks down his cheeks. I knelt, pulling him into my arms, rocking him like fragile cargo. "Hey, we're in this, together." But as his sobs quieted, doubt gnawed. Was I his shield or just another pawn in the Hawthorne game? That night, sleep evaded us, bodies spooned under sheets, his warmth a balm and a burn. Dawn crept in, gray and accusatory, and with it the knock, sharp, insistent. The fixer arrived. Harlan Crow, mid-40s, beta through and through, with a handshake like a vice and eyes that cataloged threats. "Mr. Hawthorne," he said to Elias, ignoring me, "your father's briefed me. We'll neutralize the Lang angle discreetly." Elias nodded, but his glance my way screamed apology. Harlan turned then, sizing me up. "Rivera. Solid rep from the academy, but this level, personal. Step back or step out." I bristled, alpha hackles rising. "I'm not going anywhere." His smile was oil slick. "Loyalty's admirable, but in this family it's expensive." He left dossiers. Victor's known associates, surveillance logs, even a grainy photo of my sister's headstone, fresh flowers mocking the neglect. Rage boiled, but Elias's hand on my arm cooled it. "We'll handle this. My way." Over the next days, tension coiled like a spring. Harlan's team swarmed. Shadows in alleys, bugs in cars, while Elias threw himself into work, late nights at the office blurring into dawn drives home. Our stolen moments shrank. A brush of lips in elevators, whispers in the dark. But Victor struck back, sly as a fox. Anonymous leaks to the Post about Elias's instability. Whispers of Omega breakdowns to spook investors. One evening, After a brutal board meeting where Elias defended a queer rights docuseries against cuts, we escaped to Washington Square Park. Jazz buskers wailed under the arch, students sprawled on grass like fallen leaves. We sat on a bench, his head on my knee, my fingers carding through his hair. "I love you," he murmured, so soft I almost missed it over the saxophone's cry. My heart stuttered. "Elias, don't say it back yet. Just know it." He sat up, eyes fierce. "You're the first person who's ever chosen me, not the name." I kissed him there, public and unapologetic, tourists snapping pics like we were street theater. For a moment, the park spun, a carousel of hope. But as we walked out, hand in hand, a figure detached from the shadows. Victor, lean and smirking, cigarette dangling like a threat. "Cousin," he drawled, eyes flicking to me with disdain. "Slumming it?" "Father's rolling in his grave." Elias stiffened, but held ground. "What do you want, Vic?" "Everything." Victor flicked ash, close enough I smelled his cologne. Cheap, cloying. "The merger falls through, and so do you. Call off your guard dog, or I make that upstate plot a family vacation spot." He sauntered off into the dusk, leaving venom in the air. Elias trembled, and I pulled him close, scanning for tails. "He's bluffing." "Is he?" Elias's voice broke. "This is my fault. Dragging you into the snake pit." We drove home in silence, the Brooklyn Bridge a steel ribbon over black water. That night, as rain lashed the windows, Elias confessed more. Victor's grudge ran deep, fueled by a stolen inheritance. A Omega Ant scandal hushed up. "He's always hated me for being born first, for being this." He gestured vaguely, meaning the Omega mark that made him both prized and pitted. I held him tighter. "Then we fight dirty. Harlan's got dirt. We use it." But dawn brought the real blow. A package at the door, unmarked. Inside, a USB drive and note. "Play it, hero. See the man you're dying for." Trembling, Elias plugged it in. The screen flickered to life, grainy footage from months ago. Him in a dimly lit club, laughing with a group, then slipping into a back room with Harlan. The kiss was unmistakable, heated, hands roaming. My stomach plummeted. "It's not," Elias stammered, face ashen. "That was before. A stupid, drunk mistake. Harlan's. He was safe. Predictable. Betrayal hit like the shots in the garage, but slower, searing. Safe," I echoed, voice hollow. "While you knew I'd be here, guarding your secrets?" "Alex, please." He reached for me, but I stepped back, the room spinning. New York had taken my sister. Now it was carving out my heart. I stormed out, elevator plummeting like my trust. The city streets a blur of betrayal. How deep did the lies run? And could love survive a Hawthorne hurricane? The rain came down in sheets, turning Fifth Avenue into a river of regrets as I pounded pavement, collar up against the deluge. My phone buzzed. "Elias?" 10 missed calls. But I let it ring, the USB's ghost burning in my pocket. Harlan, the fixer, the man who'd sized me up like yesterday's trash, all while tasting what I'd thought was mine. New York laughed through the storm, billboards flashing ads for elixirs that fixed everything but broken trust. I ducked into a dive on 57th, neon open, flickering like a siren's call. Ordering whiskey neat, the burn chasing shadows. The bartender, a grizzled beta with tattoos snaking up his arms, slid a coaster. "Rough night, pal?" "You could say that." I nursed the glass, mind replaying the footage. Elias's laugh, muffled but genuine, Harlan's hands possessive. Was it a setup? Victor's poison? Or just another elite dalliance? Upstate called, a phantom voice whispering escape, but Elias's words anchored me. "You're the first who chose me." By last call, soaked and stubborn, I hailed a cab back to the penthouse. The doorman nodded warily. Security had tripled, shadows in doorways. Elevator ride up was torture, each floor a judgment. Elias waited in the foyer, drenched too. From tears or shower I couldn't tell. His silk robe askew, eyes red-rimmed. "Alex." Relief flooded his face, then crumpled. I thought you'd gone. Almost did. I tossed the USB on the console, water pooling. Explain. He snatched it, hurling it into the trash. One night, Harlan was convenient. After a launch party, too much gin, feeling invisible. It meant nothing. He stepped closer, scent pleading, jasmine pleading for mercy. You mean everything. This city's a machine grinding us down. I pushed him away weeks ago. But Victor? He hoards dirt like currency. I wanted to believe, alpha instincts warring with the cynic New York had forged. And Harlan now? Still assessing? Elias winced. He's father's eyes. I can't cut him loose without blowback. But you're my choice. Stay. Fight with me. His hand trembled in mine, and I pulled him in. The kiss salt and storm. Forgiveness tasting like absolution. We didn't speak of it again that night. Bodies entwined in silent amends. The rain a lullaby against the glass. But trust? That fracture ran deep. A hairline crack waiting for pressure. Days blurred into a siege. Harlan's op ramped up. Tails on Victor's lieutenants. Bribes to informants in Lang's newsroom. Elias threw himself into the docuseries, interviewing survivors at a Chelsea shelter. Queer kids cast out like yesterday's news. His passion a fire that lit the editing bay. I'd watch from the shadows, mesmerized by his empathy. The way he'd listen, really listen, coaxing stories from shells. You're good at this? I told him one night, post-rap, as we grabbed slices at Joe's on Carmine Street. Grease dripping perfection, cheese stretching like hope. He shrugged, but smiled, rare, radiant. It's the one thing Dad can't touch. Real stories, not scandals. His foot nudged mine under the table, a secret Morse code. That glow dimmed Thursday. Victor struck via proxy. A deepfake video dropped on X, Elias confessing to embezzling from the youth fund. My face blurred in the background as the enabler. Shares tanked, donors fled, and the shelter's director called Elias in tears. They're pulling grants. Kids on the street because of this lie. Elias shattered in the car, fists pounding the dash. It's him. Victor's framing me to force the merger. Lang swallows Hawthorne and poof, queer initiative's gone. I swerved into a no-parking zone outside the precinct. Sirens a distant whine. We go public. Expose the fake. With what? Harlan says wait. Gather proof. His voice cracked. But waiting means more hurt. Harlan. The name soured my gut. That night, alone in the guest suite, space to breathe, he said. I hacked Victor's public drops, tracing IP crumbs to a midtown server farm. Amateur hour, but it led to a name, Crow Associates. Harlan's firm. Confrontation brewed. Next morning, over espresso in the boardroom, Elias in a power suit, me in tactical black. Harlan breezed in with files. We've got him. Victor's meeting a hacker tonight, Dumbo Warehouse. We move at 11. Elias nodded, but his eyes flicked to me, warning. I shadowed Harlan to the hall, cornering him by the copy machine's hum. The video. Your play. His laugh was ice. Paranoia suits you, Rivera. But yeah, insurance. Elias was getting soft. This lights a fire under him. Rage blinded. I grabbed his lapels, slamming him against the wall. Papers fluttering like startled birds. You used him. Again. Used. Harlan sneered, straightening his tie. He came to me, begged, even. You're the rebound, alpha. Temporary thrill in a beta's world. I released him, fist throbbing, storming out. Elias found me on the fire escape, chain-smoking Camels, vice from my cop days. What happened? Harlan. The deepfake, his doing. To push you back to him. Elias paled, then flushed fury. Bastard. I've been blind. He crushed the cigarette under his heel. No more. Tonight we end it. You and me. Dumbo at midnight. Warehouses hulking like forgotten beasts. East River slapping pilings. We parked a block out. Ghosts in the fog. Harlan's team a distant hum. But Elias grabbed my arm. Wait. I called Victor. Meeting him alone. Draw him out. No. Panic spiked. It's a trap. Trust me. His kiss was fierce. A vow. Get proof. Then we run for real. He vanished into the gloom, silhouette swallowed. I circled wide, heart hammering, phone live streaming to a burner cloud. Minutes stretched, then shouts, a scuffle. I bolted, bursting into a cavernous space lit by sodium lamps. Elias grappling Victor, fists flying, crates splintering. You traitorous little... Victor snarled, pinning him, knife glinting. I tackled him, elbow to throat, the blade skittering. We rolled, punches landing. His jaw cracking under my knuckles, until Harlan's voice boomed, "Enough!" Spotlights blinded, his team swarming. Victor laughed, bloodied but unbroken. Too late, cuz. The merger docs. Signed this morning. By Elias. Liar. But Elias, restrained now, met my eyes. Guilt? Or worse? Handcuffs clicked. Cops pouring in, Harlan's call. Clean sweep. Victor cuffed. Smirking. Check the server, hero. Your boy's been playing both sides. In the chaos, as medics patched my split lip, Elias pulled me aside, voice shattering. It's true. The signing. To save the shelters. Dad's terms merge, but keep the programs. I didn't tell you. Thought it'd break us. Betrayal round two deeper, deliberate. You chose them. Over us. Tears streamed. I chose survival. For all of us, the kids, you, me. Forgive. No. I wrenched free, the warehouse spinning. New York had won again, devouring trust like it devoured light. Outside, rain slicked the cobblestones, cop cars flashing blue requiem. Harlan clapped my shoulder, condolence or claim? As Elias watched from the ambulance, mouth forming silent pleas. I walked into the night, bridge lights mocking my flight. Upstate waited, but the scar? That stayed, a New York tattoo. The upstate farm greeted me like an old scar. Familiar ache, but healing crooked. I'd driven through the night, windshield wipers battling tears, the USB and its lies discarded in a Jersey ditch. Dawn broke over rolling hills, mist clinging to cornstalks, as I pulled into the gravel drive of my rented cabin, the one with the sagging porch and view of nothing but sky. Old man Hargrove, my landlord, waved from his tractor, none the wiser. Back early, Rivera? City spit you out. Something like that. I unloaded the duffel. Clothes, gun, ghosts, and collapsed on the cot. The silence a bomb after Manhattan's roar. No sense to tempt. No blue eyes to betray. Just me. The alpha who'd guarded a heart only to watch it auctioned off. Days melted into routine. Dawn runs through dew-kissed fields, engine grease under nails at the local garage. Evenings with a six-pack and the radio crooning Springsteen anthems about working-class dreams deferred. I told myself it was freedom, escaped the viper pit, dodged the bullet. But sleep brought dreams. Elias's laugh in Coney's glow, his hand in mine under the arch, the warehouse plea twisting like a knife. Forgive, as if trust rebuilt on whispers. A week in, the letter arrived, no stamp, hand-delivered by Hargrove's nephew, who eyed me curious. Cream envelope, Hawthorne crest embossed. Inside, Elias's script, elegant loops unraveling at the edges. Alex, I write this from a Hamptons guest house, father's retreat, after the merger dust settled. Victor's in cuffs, fraud, extortion, and Harlan? Sacked, blacklisted. But victories taste like ash without you. The signing wasn't betrayal. It was chess. I inked the deal to lock in protections. Shelters funded for a decade. Queer voices amplified. Dad thinks he won. I rigged the board. But you? I lost you, and that's the real defeat. New York broke me long ago, made me armor up with lies. You stripped it away, showed me raw. If there's mercy left, come back. Not as guard, but equal. Or don't live free the way you deserve. I love you always. Elias. P.S. Check the cloud link. Proof, not promises. I stared at the fields, heart a war zone. The link loaded on my laptop. Docs, timestamps, emails, Elias's maneuvers, coded clauses shielding the programs, Victor's hacks exposed. No Harlan in the frame. That kiss a relic, discarded. He'd played the long game, not for power but for the vulnerable, the kids like my sister lost to indifference. Still, the hurt festered. I drove to the lake, skipping stones across water glassy as regret, each plunk a what-if. By dusk, decision crystallized. New York wasn't the villain. Fear was. And love? Worth the gamble. Back in the city 2 days later, subway rumble home. I hit the penthouse unannounced. Elias answered, disheveled in sweats, eyes widening like I'd risen from graves. Alex. No words. I pulled him into the hall, kissing him fierce. The kind that mends, not breaks. He melted, sobs muffled against my neck. You came. Proof convinced me. I cupped his face, thumbs wiping tears. But the letter? That sealed it. We talked till midnight, sprawled on the balcony chaise, skyline a confetti of lights. He confessed the toll. Panic attacks in boardrooms, suppressants masking the omega ache for pack. For me, I shared the farm's quiet, the temptation to vanish. But you pulled me back. You're my city now. The merger held, but Elias reshaped it. Hawthornelang a hybrid beast, funding expanded, arts grants for queer filmmakers, hotlines staffed round the clock. He stepped down as heir apparent, ceding to a cousin sans scandals, focusing on production. Real stories, he said, echoing our pizza slice night. Our life wove simple amid the chaos. Mornings in bed with the Times crossword, him teasing my rustic slang. Weekends at the shelter, me teaching self-defense to wide-eyed teens, Elias filming their triumphs. No grand gestures, just steady. The Alpha-Omega bond deepening without fanfare, sense mingling like old friends. One crisp October eve, as leaves turned Central Park to fire, we walked the paths hand in hand, tourists parting like the Red Sea. A busker strummed New York, New York, and Elias stopped, pulling a ring from his pocket. Simple platinum, engraved with coordinates. Our bench in the square. Not marriage, he clarified, slipping it on. Promise, to choose us, every damn day. I mirrored it with a band from my keychain. A worn silver omega symbol, scavenged from my sister's things. Every day, we kissed under the oaks, autumn wind whispering approvals. New York watched, indifferent, eternal, but for once, it felt like ally, not adversary. Betrayals scarred, conflicts forged. But love? That was the humanism, the quiet revolution. Two men, flawed and fierce, claiming space in a city that tried to erase them. Months later, at the docuseries premiere, red carpet subdued, village vanguard intimate, Elias dedicated it to the guardians, seen and unseen. His eyes found mine in the crowd, that blue drowning me anew. As applause thundered, I knew we'd survived the storm, not unscathed, but whole. The end? In New York, stories loop eternal. But ours, this one bent toward light, a testament that even in the machine, hearts could hack the code.